The final example in Chapter 1, example 1.3.1, is a little bit of a step away from the focus on units and a little preview of the mathematical modeling process. So the question asks us to consider how much time do you anticipate studying on Precalculus each week? Now, I'll note that in my class, these expectations are a little bit different. But here's what Collingwood suggests will make up your time spent during Precalculus. So he suggests you could just say a lot or a little, or kind of take a stab in the dark of, 6-8 hours a week. But when it comes to mathematical modeling, rather than just estimating, we really want to create some sort of a model that will say a little more explicitly how much time we'll spend. So Collingwood splits up the time spent as follows. Collingwood suggests that there are three main ways that you'll be spending your time studying Precalculus. The first is time in class, the second is time reading the text, and the third is time actually working the problems. So already we've created somewhat of a mathematical model. Now, in order to put this into something that you might be a little more comfortable calling a mathematical model, we need to be a little bit more explicit on the amount of time spent in class, the amount of time spent reading, and the amount of time spent working problems. So the amount of time spent in class is quite clear. There's 5 hours per week of class time, both in our class here at Transition School and in the university's Precalculus class. The time reading and the time working problems are a little bit less clear. And in particular, in my class also, the time spent doing writing assignments is a little bit less clear. So when we're trying to create mathematical models, we'd like to create a model that's somewhat flexible. So rather than simply saying, oh, I'll spend an hour and a half per week on reading, we could say something like, I'll spend 15 minutes per page on reading. Now, of course, some pages will take longer than others. This 15 minutes is an average. But this gives us a way to be a little bit more flexible. Say one chapter was a little long, we could adjust our model for how much extra time we might need to account for that. Or if we find a few weeks into the course that we're actually spending more than 15 minutes per page reading, then we might be able to adjust our model. So Collingwood suggests that you might spend "15 minutes per page of reading, and 25 minutes per problem on the problem set." So combining the time in class and the time reading and the time working problems, well, right now what I have is the amount of time spent per page of reading. If we say that there are R pages per week of reading and H problems per week on the problem set, then we can model how much time we spend total. In particular, we could write this model. Notice that I've included this divided by 60 here. You could think of this as multiplying this 15R by a conversion factor. If we had simply written 15R, our units would have been in minutes. But if we multiply this conversion factor of 1 hour is equivalent to 60 minutes, then we come up with this. So, roughly speaking, what does this say you might spend if we assume a typical chapter is, say, 10 pages of reading and a typical problem set is 10 problems, then what we have in a typical week is 150 minutes of reading and 250 minutes of problem set work. That's 400 total minutes outside class on the problems, on studying for this course. 400 minutes is a little over 6 hours. In fact, closer to 7 hours on this course.